Hey everyone, welcome back to New Method Live. I am so excited that you're here. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is sunshine and how sunshine is good for you. You have this feeling when you go outside, right? And you go outside and it's sunny and you just feel good. Why is that? Why is it that when it's sunny outside, your mood just gets better and you're just like ready to enjoy the day? And when it's dark and gloomy, you just want to put on your pajamas and curl up and watch Netflix. And speaking of Netflix, why is it that when anything good happens to the main character of the movie, the sun is shining, there's birds chirping, right? If you get the main character lands the job, wins the day, gets the girl, it's always on a bright and sunny day. And on the other hand, you know that if it's dark and gloomy and rainy, that something bad is going to happen. And that's when I shut off the TV because I'm terrified. But anyway, so the point is there's something that happens to us physically when we see the sun and when we don't see the sun. Why does that happen? Is it just psychological? Well, no, it turns out that the sun actually does things to us chemically that really makes a difference. Not only changes our metabolism, but changes our entire health. So today we're going to talk about how the sun affects health. And sunlight is awesome for you. And of course, we're going to talk about the danger of the sun also, but let's start with the good stuff. So the very first thing that most of you know about the sun is vitamin D, right? The vitamin D in the sun. Let's talk about that and let's discuss, kind of debunk the myth. Let's see what exactly the sun does with vitamin D. So vitamin D, we can get it in three ways. We can eat it, we can take supplements, or we get it from the sun. So eating it, of course, we always encourage a good, healthy diet to get all our vitamins. And vitamin D is great to get from diet. But really, how much mackerel, beef liver, and sardines are you going to eat? I don't know about you, but it's not my go-to meal. And if that's you, that's awesome. You're probably getting a lot of vitamin D. But most of us, I don't know, sardines and mackerel is not the top of the top 10 greatest food list. So that's why we recommend for most patients to take vitamin D supplements because you have to get it in there. But there is a third way of getting vitamin D, which is when you're exposed to the sun. So when you're exposed to the sun, the UVB rays of the sun actually interacts with a protein on your skin and creates vitamin D. Now, I'm talking about 15 to 20 minutes of the sun, early morning sun, and I'll get more into that later. I don't mean lying out on a lounge chair, like lathered in baby oil. I don't mean that for like 4 hours, right? I don't mean getting a weird tan line because you fell asleep with your hands on your belly and then you got that weird like hand tan line. You did that once. Okay, I don't mean that. I mean very low exposure, 10 to 15 minutes in the morning sun will make a huge difference in how you get your vitamin D. And that is a very interesting about vitamin D. So vitamin D is not exactly a vitamin, even though we call it vitamin. Because vitamins in general are micronutrients that you have to take either from food or from supplements. So they're kind of external to our body. Vitamin D is actually a hormone because the body can produce it on its own. What makes it so much more powerful than just a vitamin. It's actually a hormone. And so we know that vitamin D is great for our teeth and great for our bones. And the reason that is because it regulates calcium in our blood. And so if it's low, if our vitamin D is low, it can create rickets in children. It can create osteomalacia or osteoporosis in adults. But it's not just teeth and bone. It's also important for immune function. It reduces the risk of autoimmunity. It helps the gut produce other vitamins. There are studies that show that low vitamin D is related to heart attacks, high blood pressure, depression, inflammation, poor wound healing. So it's a super important vitamin. So when you're exposed to the sun, again, I'm saying 10 to 15 minutes a day, you're actually producing a feel-good hormone. So exposure to the sun, minimal exposure to the sun actually produces this delicious hormone, vitamin D, which helps us on so many things. But vitamin D is not the only benefit of the sun. It's the one we know mostly. But sunshine also helps us with something called our circadian rhythm. What is a circadian rhythm? It's our body's internal clock. Body is so cool with how it knows what to do during the day and what it knows what to do at night. And by the way, circadian rhythm is not just for humans. Nature has it all over. Some plants have it, plants that bloom in the day, and then at night they close their petals. That's their own circadian rhythm. And humans have it, of course, and certain hormones and activities are happening during the day, and different ones happen at night. And the way to do it is because we have a master clock in our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And every time I say it, I want to say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I have to say it, but that's not what it is. Okay, it's a suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN. And again, I'm thinking about Mary Poppins as I'm saying it, but it's about 20,000 nerve cells that function as the master clock in the brain. So it actually tells our body, is it day or is it night? And the way it does that, the way it knows if it's day or night, is by seeing sunshine. So when it sees sunshine, it knows it's day and releases the appropriate chemicals. And when it doesn't see sunshine, it thinks it's night and releases different nighttime chemicals. So it totally affects our sleep-wake cycle, but it also affects our hormones, our body temperature, our rhythm, our eating, digestion, insulin sensitivity, glucose control, energy expenditure. So it affects everything. This little clock in our brain that I can't pronounce without thinking of Mary Poppins, this little clock in our brain actually controls so much of what's happening. In rats, and again, I have to apologize to my wife every time I mention rat and mice experiments, but it is what it is. I didn't do the experiment. So in rats, they discovered that getting bright light exposure in the morning leads to lower weight, glucose control, as well as lower anxiety and depression. So the point is that sunshine can affect weight, glucose control, anxiety, depression. This is why we feel good when we're exposed to it. The problem is that in our lifestyle and our social habits, we're indoors all the time. And it causes circadian disruption. Say that 3 times really fast. Circadian disruption. And this totally messes with our mood and our metabolism, which again leads to insulin issues, sugar issues, fat metabolism, increased risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. The bottom line is this: sunlight sends a message to your brain to do all the daytime functions. And when those functions don't get activated at the right time, it affects every system in the body. Sunshine also controls our cortisol and melatonin. And for those of you who have yet to see my video on adrenal fatigue, go find it in the playlist right away, or maybe wait till I'm done and then find it. But there's a whole talk on adrenal fatigue and cortisol. And the way it's supposed to work is when the sun hits your eyes, and by the way, even if you're sleeping, even if your eyelids are closed, your brain still registers the sunlight. When you're sleeping, if there's just a little bit of sun that comes through those shades, the brain registers them, even if your eyes are closed. So it registers it and tells the brain, hey, release cortisol. It's time to wake up. So it releases a lot of cortisol, gets our body moving, gets our body awake, starts the process. But you know what else it does? Because the sunlight started, it tells the brain, hey, begin the countdown to sleep. So it doesn't just release cortisol, it releases it it's supposed to release it in very high amounts in the morning. It also starts a slow drip of melatonin to start to prepare your body for nighttime. It starts doing reverse countdown. So a low amount of melatonin is released throughout the day until night, and then you have this accumulation of melatonin so you can sleep. So the sunlight actually starts the brain, not only starts it for the day, but it actually starts preparing you for sleep. And that's why if it's disrupted, our sleep is disrupted. If you're not exposed to sunlight during the day, the whole process of falling asleep later on actually gets disrupted. And cortisol can get elevated at the wrong times. That's part of the adrenal fatigue conversation. And when it elevates at the wrong time, it leaves you feeling depleted. So it messes with everything once again. Sunshine messes. When it's done right, it gets your clock on point, gets your cortisol and melatonin on point. And when we're not exposed to it, it messes it all up. But sunshine is also amazing for serotonin and mood. I love this one. Serotonin is your feel-good hormone. When serotonin is low, that's associated with depression. When serotonin is normal, that's associated with not feeling depressed. So sunshine increases your feel-good hormone, increases your serotonin levels. This is why some people have seasonal affective disorder. That's people who have depression in the winter. And that's because there are less sunlight hours. And so their body's not releasing enough serotonin. And that's why, for some people, part of their depression treatment is phototherapy, which basically means light therapy. You buy a light box, which can simulate the sun so that your brain can feel like it's exposed to the sun and raise serotonin levels. So it's part of depression treatment. And of course, serotonin also plays a role in metabolism, controls your appetite, improves glucose control. So not only does it make you happier, but it manages your sugar better and manages your weight better, which of course makes us feel better. Sunshine, this one I did not know. I read this when I was researching for this live. Sunshine has been shown to reduce blood pressure in this super cool way. The top layer of the skin actually has something called nitric oxide stored in the top layer, and it reacts to sunlight, which causes blood vessels to open up a little bit, and the nitric oxide goes into the bloodstream, which lowers the blood pressure. So that's kind of like when you go out in the sun and you just feel like this moment. That's part of that process. It's actually a chemical reaction which lowers your blood pressure, calms you down. Sunlight also has healing properties. It's been associated to help people with eczema, acne, psoriasis. Light therapy is used for psoriasis quite often. There's also a link between sunshine, sunlight, and rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, inflammatory bowel disease, and thyroiditis. The point is that the sun can actually have healing properties when used correctly. And of course, I cannot ignore that we have to enjoy the sun safely. The last thing I want is for you guys to think, all right, E said we can all go sun tanning now for 5 hours in the midday sun and like lather ourselves up with cocoa butter. I did not say that. Okay. I did not say that. Pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm saying enjoy the sun safely. And what does that look like? That looks like 5 to 15 minutes in the early morning sun, not in the heat of the day, in the early morning sun, on your arms, your hands, and your face, 2 to 3 times a week. That's it. That's all you need. And if that's all you're getting, then you should not wear sunscreen in those moments or protective clothing, because your sun actually has to be exposed to the skin to get its healing and energetic properties. But if you're going to be out there more than that, you must wear sunscreen or protective clothing or both, because the UV rays, of course, can cause damage to the cell DNA and of course can cause skin cancer. So I want to make sure that we're clear that because people tell me this all the time. Oh yeah, it's the summertime. I'm tanning. I'm getting my vitamin D. No, ma'am. No, sir. That is not what I'm saying. Okay. 5 to 15 minutes, early morning sun, and then that's it. And then the topical cream goes on or the protective gear goes on. Okay. So let's not go bananas. Let's do this safely. We're not trying to create new problems. And we're not trying to say that E said something that you didn't. Okay. Focus. Good. So let's recap. Recapping is my favorite part. Recapping. So sunlight, sunshine, when done safely, is amazing for the body. There is a reason why you feel so great when you see the sun coming through the window and when you go out and the sun hits your face. There's a reason for it. That's because it's increasing your vitamin D. It is fixing your circadian rhythm. Your internal clock is in the right place. It's helping you with weight loss. It's helping you with glucose control. It helps you with serotonin, which is mood boosting. It lowers your blood pressure and it helps you heal. So enjoy the sun safely. And of course, we're here for you. We want to work with you to manage anything else that is kind of on your plate so you can manage your health issues. So if you want to reach us, you want to work with us, this is how you reach us at The New Method or thenewmethod.com. Send us a message. We look forward to working with you. And I will see you guys next week. And remember, you always knew there was a better way. See you next week.